Mary Seacole arrived in Panama in 1851 and found a country awash with gold prospectors, freewheelers, and disease. She was undaunted.
I do not know what it is to be indolent. All my life long I have followed my inclination to be up and doing, and I have never lacked the determination to carry out my wishes.
A cholera epidemic gave Mary Seacole a dramatic opportunity to prove her skills.
She was certainly very proactive for her time. She picked up all the typical remedies that she felt were useful. At the same time, obviously, she did work under the specific circumstances of mid-19th century medicine. And they were completely different from what we have now. We have to remember, not a single of the synthetic drugs which we have available now were available then.
The simplest remedies are the best. Mustard plasters and emetics and calomel. If a patient is thirsty, give him water in which cinnamon has been boiled.
One of the really interesting remedies is cinnamon, which had been boiled in water, and then you drink this resulting tea. Cinnamon is a very aromatic herb. I think the main effect goes back to its aromatic properties. These aromatic properties will have helped with sort of gastrointestinal cramps and similar things. So it's in a way what we today call oral rehydration therapy in a Mary Seacole way.
She practiced the full range of her healing skills, from suturing wounds to treating fever.
Every patient is different. You must understand the needs of each. Some will respond to rubbing over with warm oil and camphor and spirits of wine. Above all, I never neglect to apply mustard poultices to the stomach, the spine and the neck, and particularly to keep my patient warm about the region of the heart.
Well, if we look at Mary Seacole and her role in 19th century medicine, she obviously is very much of a healer, coming from these classical African-Caribbean traditions. All these provide the community with, on the one hand, plant and mineral-based medication, but also with advice, also with spiritual support, of looking after people and looking after their very personal needs. Mary Seacole is a prime example of such a hands-on approach.
Her medicine worked. She could treat the prospectors' cholera. For their prejudice, however, she had no cure. In an extraordinary encounter set down in her book, Seacole was confronted by their overt racism.
Gentlemen, I know you'll rejoice in joining me in a toast. Anti-Seacole, gentlemen. Anti-Seacole. We can't do enough for her after what she done for us when the time of cholera was among us, huh? And I calculate that you're as vexed as I am, that she's not totally white. But you rejoice with me that she's so many shades from being entirely black. And I guess that if we could bleach her by any means, we would. And make her acceptable in any society, as she deserves. Gentlemen, I give you Anti-Seacole.
Mary was incandescent. She wanted to be regarded as Mrs. Seacole, a person of consequence. And this American was just bundling her with all the other busybody old ladies and all the other black people that he'd come across. She squashed that poor American down with a twist of the foot.
Gentlemen, I return my best wishes for your kindness in drinking my health. But I must say that I don't altogether appreciate your friend's kind wishes with respect to my complexion. If it had been as dark as any nigger's, I'd be just as happy and as useful and is much respected by those whose respect I value. As to his offer of bleaching me, I should, even if it were practicable, decline it without any thanks. As to the society which this process may gain me admission to, all I can say is, judging by the specimens I have met with here and elsewhere, I do not think I would lose much by being excluded from it. So, gentlemen, I drink to you and the general reformation of American manners.
To report this incident with such candor was extraordinary for its time. It confronted her white Victorian readers with the reality of racism and with her blackness.
She did not deny her black heritage. She did not have to express affinity for her black mother, her black ancestors, but she did. Now, I must say that that was not typical of coloreds in Jamaica in the 19th century. Free colored people in Jamaica expressed more of a solidarity with white society than with black society.
She was extremely concerned in her book to challenge any suggestion of pigeonholing. For any Victorian woman to say, I'm me, look at me, listen to me, this is what I want to be. It's an incredibly modern concept, but she did so well with it.
The outbreak of war in Europe would finally bring Mary Seacole to the attention of the British public. In 1854, Britain sent thousands of soldiers to fight the Russians in the Crimean War. It was a disaster, and the shockwaves were felt in every corner of the British Empire. As Mary Seacole read of soldiers she had known and treated in Jamaica sailing to their fate, in Britain, public outcry at the mismanagement of the war was about to bring down the government.
Very soon after the Crimean campaign began, it became very clear back home that there were certain essential and crucial things that were lacking, and these were things that were likely to prejudice the whole campaign. They were quite simple things, simple medicines, food, drink, clothes, comfort, somebody just to boost the morale of the soldiers.
The loss of life in the Crimea was unprecedented. But of almost 23,000 British fatalities, less than 5,000 died from battle wounds. 18,000 were killed by tropical diseases.
There were so many things lacking in the Crimea that Mary was qualified to provide. She recognised that there was a Mary Seacole-shaped chasm in the Crimea, and she went out to fill it.
What delight should I not experience if I could be useful to my own sons, suffering for a cause it was so glorious to fight and bleed for? I made up my mind. If the army wanted nurses, they'd be glad of me.
In autumn 1854, Mary Seacole set sail on the 20-day voyage to England. At the same time, another extraordinary woman was sailing for Turkey. Her mission was to bring order to the chaos of the British Army Hospital in Constantinople. Florence Nightingale's ambition was to introduce efficiency and cleanliness to the care of the sick. What she needed most were qualified staff. She took with her 38 nurses, few of them familiar with the diseases raging in the Crimea. A further 46 recruits were due to set out 2 months later. And a 47th candidate was about to volunteer her services at interview. On arrival in London, Mary Seacole headed straight for the corridors of power in Whitehall.
My first idea was to apply to the War Office for the post of hospital nurse.
Mary never doubted for a minute that when she got to London, she would be snapped up. She knew that she had the instincts to go and make a real difference to the men who were out there.
Mary Seacole roamed the headquarters of the British Empire, a place to which her colonial upbringing told her she belonged. She brought references from high-ranking officers and medical staff she'd known and treated in Jamaica. She was turned down by the War Office, rejected by the Quartermaster General's Department, and refused by the Medical Office.
Had it not been for my old strong-mindedness, I should have given up the scheme a score of times in as many days. So regularly did each successive day give birth to a fresh set of rebuffs and disappointments. Willingly, had they accepted me, I would have worked for the wounded in return for bread and water.
Nowhere was the establishment's attitude clearer than amongst the women recruiting for Florence Nightingale's Army Hospital in Turkey.
Once again I tried and had an interview, this time with one of Miss Nightingale's companions. She gave me the same reply. But I read in her face the fact that had there been a vacancy, I should not have been chosen to fill it. One cold evening, I stood in the twilight, which was fast deepening into wintry night, and looked back upon the ruins of my last castle in the air. Doubts and suspicions arose in my heart. Did these ladies shrink from accepting my aid because my blood flowed beneath a somewhat duskier skin than theirs?
It was the first time that she admits to feeling crushed when she heard that Florence Nightingale's outfit didn't want to employ her. But in a way, she used it to advantage, as she always used any adversity to advantage. She invested that shock and that disappointment and turned it into the vigour that would send her out there to do what she wanted to do anyway.
Snubbed by the establishment, Mary Seacole fell back on the skills that had always served her so well. She would head to the epicenter of the bloodiest war zone in memory and open a Jamaican hotel.
It took little more than a good night's rest to strengthen my determination. Let what might happen, to the Crimea I would go.